In June 2024, Starliner drifted toward the space station when 5 thrusters quit on approach, and that is why the crew never rode it home. 2 astronauts, 1 spacecraft they could not trust. Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams launched in June 2024 on a test flight meant to last about 8 days. It stretched into months aboard the station. The obvious story is Boeing built a lemon. The real question is narrower. What physically failed on approach, and why NASA decided it was too risky to fly 2 people home on it. Start with what Starliner actually is. This was Boeing's crew flight test, the capsule's first mission carrying people. Everything before had been empty rehearsals. Past this one and Starliner earned certification. That is NASA's stamp to fly astronauts on regular rotations, giving the agency 2 ride providers instead of leaning on SpaceX alone. So the stakes were high before launch. Now the part that failed. Bolted around the capsule's service module sit 28 small rocket jets. Each fires in short bursts, no bigger than a coffee mug's worth of push. Their job is fine control. They nudge the capsule's angle so it lines up with the docking port. Later, they flip it into the exact pose for the burn that drops it out of orbit. Big engines get you to space. These little jets are what let you park gently and come home on target. Miss the angle and you either cannot dock or you fire the deorbit burn pointed the wrong way. That raises the obvious question. If these jets are so critical, what went wrong with them? Before we get to the jets quitting, there was already a warning sign. A leak. To make a thruster fire, propellant has to be pushed to it under pressure, and Starliner uses helium gas to do the pushing. No helium pressure, no shove, no thrust. Here is the honest part. Even before docking, engineers knew about a small helium leak in the propulsion plumbing. They tracked it, judged it manageable, and cleared the launch. This was not a hidden surprise. But once in orbit, more leaks appeared. Now several tiny leaks were bleeding pressure from the very system that feeds all those control jets. On its own, one slow leak is not fatal. The system carries margin. The trouble is what a leak represents. It means seals somewhere are not holding. And if the plumbing is weeping helium, engineers can no longer be fully confident the whole service module will behave as designed. Remember, that service module is thrown away before landing and burns up. Nobody gets it back to inspect. So every doubt about it has to be settled from orbit with data alone. And the leaks were the first crack in that confidence. Then the jets themselves started dropping offline. This is where it got serious. During the final approach to the station, as those control jets fired again and again to hold the capsule steady, they began failing one after another. By the worst point, 5 of the 28 had gone dead. Picture parallel parking with a quarter of your steering suddenly gone. The capsule needs constant tiny corrections to creep toward a docking port, moving at 17,000 miles an hour. Lose enough jets on the wrong side, and it can drift out of its safe approach corridor. So the crew and mission control paused, held the capsule off, and started refiring the dead jets one by one. Most of them came back to life. That is genuinely good news. They docked safely and nobody was in danger. But think about what a recovery like that actually tells you. A jet that quits then works again after a rest has not been fixed. Its underlying fault is still there, just hidden. And the engineers on the ground did not yet know why any of them had quit in the first place. So they had a spacecraft that had lost 5 jets, gotten most of them back, and offered no clear reason for the failure. You cannot certify a mystery. Which forced the next question. What was physically choking these jets? So they went hunting for the cause on the ground. Boeing and NASA fired an identical thruster in a vacuum chamber over and over, mimicking the docking sequence. The culprit turned out to be small and physical. Inside each jet sits a Teflon seal that helps control propellant flow. Under repeated rapid firing, those jets ran hot, and the heat made the Teflon seal swell. A swollen seal pinches the passage and starves the jet of propellant, so it loses thrust. That matched the pattern in orbit exactly. Here is why that answer still was not good enough. Docking was already behind them. The next hard job was the deorbit burn, the long, demanding firing that drops the capsule out of orbit and commits it to re-entry. That burn leans on the same jets, running hot for a sustained stretch. Nobody could prove the seals would not swell again at the worst possible moment, high above Earth, with 2 people strapped in and no way to abort. That is the doubt they could not close. And NASA's risk math is blunt. If you cannot verify the system, take the people out of it. An empty capsule that fails is a lost spacecraft. A crewed one that fails is a catastrophe, which set up the decision everyone remembers. So here is the decision that ties it all together. With a leaky helium system and jets that could choke on the one burn that mattered most, NASA chose the option with the fewest people at risk. Send Starliner home empty. Wilmore and Williams stayed on the station and were folded into the next SpaceX crew, Crew 9. That is the rescue everyone talks about. No dramatic dash, just a seat swap onto a Dragon capsule already going up. They finally rode that Dragon home in 2025. And Starliner, It undocked on its own, fired the very deorbit burn NASA had not trusted with people aboard, and landed cleanly in the desert empty. It worked. But working once with no lives on the line is exactly the gamble NASA refused to take with the crew. Dead jets, a leaking system, and a root cause nobody could rule out for the final burn. That is the whole reason 2 astronauts watched their own ride land without them. For Boeing, that leaves certification hanging. The stamp to fly regular crews is still not fully earned, and the whole point was giving NASA 2 ride providers instead of 1. Whether Starliner ever carries astronauts again is the open question. Next, the fix itself. How do you cool a thruster that keeps swelling its own seals shut?